Moin, I'm Catherine, and today I'm in bed with Laura Zak.
Hi!
Which is very exciting for me because last year I was sitting here with Jen Richards, who's co-starring with you in her story.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, my co-writer as well. And part of the reason I'm here this year is because she loved it so much.
Yeah.
She had the nicest things to say, so I was really excited to be here.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. And I confessed in the video with Jen Richards that I have a crush on Laura. So this is just
I saw it.
So just if you think there are weird vibes, it's just me being really, really nervous.
No, there's no weird vibes. It's all good.
It's good.
By the time we're done talking about the books, we're going to be best friends.
So. Yeah, I think so. And I didn't have time to be nervous at all before the interview because I was reading. So
does reading help you not feel nervous? Just focuses your mind.
It just focuses my mind.
Yeah.
So if I really concentrate it, I don't think about anything else.
Good.
Or I try to, but yeah. Mm-hmm. So we are here, apropos reading, to talk about a book I love very, very much. It's called
Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt. Is that German?
No, I think she's
American.
Brunt.
But is that a German name? Brunt. Yeah. Brunt.
We're totally prepared here.
Yeah. We've spoken with the author.
And the fun fact is that it just came out in German, and I love this cover.
It's so beautiful, the design of it, yeah. You're going to keep it in the plastic, preserve it.
And what's really, really perfect, I just borrowed it.
Oh, okay.
So I have to give it back. Is that they didn't mess around with the title. So it's very literally translated because usually you can end up with really, really bad German titles. Mm-hmm. So I'm very happy that they didn't do it. This is very literally translated. So if you're German, you can now read this. And I highly recommend you to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved this book.
You loved it too?
Yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
I was really happy because Laura had a list of books to choose from and she chose like only the very, very, very favorite of my books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. I was like...
Yeah. Curly had sent me the list or your Goodreads link that had all of your favorites. Yeah. And then I was just so excited to peruse that. And there were many on there that I already had read and I wanted to pick ones I hadn't read yet. And and so then I countered with like my favorites that I would want to read, and then you countered with the two, and I was like, okay, let's do this.
I was really excited that like out of the favorites, you choose the favorite.
Good, okay, really good. That's a good sign.
So, can you tell us like very shortly what the book is about?
Sure. It is set in 1987, and the narrator is a young 14-year-old girl named June, who has just, at the beginning of the book, loses her favorite uncle, Finn, to AIDS, and is grieving that and dealing with that in her family, and ends up starting a friendship with his ex-partner, or his partner, up until he died, Toby, secretly because her family disapproves, and it's about their friendship and what she learns about her uncle in the aftermath of his death. Yeah, would be the short version. And he was a painter. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Like I love I have a video about like favorite first sentences. A fun fact, I mention this book so often that I have a playlist now with videos in which I mention. I'm going to link that.
Really?
Yes, I have.
That's super fan.
And like because like the first sentence is, I have to read it again. My sister Greta and I were having our portrait painted by our Uncle Finn that afternoon because he knew he was dying. I mean, whew,
that'll grip you right away.
That is like the first sentence too.
And it has all of the main players right there.
Right there.
I mean, other than Toby, but it has the sister and the uncle right, and the narrator right in the first sentence.
Because like the sister also plays a huge role in the connection between the two sisters. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like the author would love to know that, though, that like you have a playlist of mentioning her book.
That's like rock star. I think I should tweet it again. Yeah,
you should. That's cool.
I'm going to tweet her this video, and then she can. Yeah, that's good.
What's up, Carol?
What's up, Carol? Exactly. Carol.
Join us.
I'm waiting for another fantastic.
Look
book.
at how many different versions of her book we have here.
I mean,
come on.
Yeah. Perfect. What was the book to you on a personal level?
I think, having lost family members in an untimely manner, I think it resonated in that way. I had my cousin, who I was very close to, die when he was 31 and I was 20. And I think I really related to that experience of, in the aftermath of someone passing, figuring out how to carry on their legacy and what about them lives on in you and lives on in other people, and noticing that. Like, there was a little bit of like a cult of personality thing going on here, where it was sort of like the aspect of noticing, as she gets to know Toby, her uncle's partner, better, she's realizing that a lot of what she loved about her uncle actually came from Toby, and the way that we carry pieces of other people in ourselves. So I feel like I've experienced that, in kind of carrying on pieces of the personalities of people I've lost. Yeah.
Good that you mentioned, because I didn't know if I should bring the question into it, because I don't know about if you lost any close family members or people very close to you. But I found it very interesting, because there was a part where she says that she felt like it wasn't her place to mourn that much about her uncle, like that you feel some kind of guilt because you feel that that it's other people's part to mourn that much for that person. Did you ever experience that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that specific passage did resonate, because she's talking about, I was only the niece.
Exactly.
Like, no one can see into my heart and see that, like, I mean, in her case, she was basically in love with her uncle, or the way her feelings manifested were like a first love level. And yeah, it was similar. Like, it's different to say, oh, my cousin passed, but then to really mean like someone who was like a brother to me. That's really what it meant. Yeah. But that's not necessarily how it's heard. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever felt like I don't have that I'm not allowed to grieve, but I do think the perception of what that grief would look like within different family members, varies. Yeah.
And for the outside to understand that, like, well, it's only a cousin. So to understand what it really means to you.
Yeah, so. It's very much based on your own relationships within your family, like how you would interpret someone else's loss. Yeah.
But I mean, going to say that, well, he felt like a brother to me, that would explain it to other people. So it's a good way to go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very nice. Was there anything you especially liked about the novel?
I thought it was really effective at like the narration, the POV being from a young person was very realistic. Like, I think the way she viewed the world and interacted and processed the world felt very accurate to a young teenager or someone who is still learning and grappling as she goes. And I really liked how much growth there was in her character from the beginning to the end, because especially at that time in someone's life when they're 14, the growth is happening so rapidly. Yeah. And that was really effectively portrayed in this. Yes. Yeah.
We were just talking about yesterday that we felt like that so many authors don't get the age right when they write about teenage.
Right, they just put themselves in it. Do you know if this is considered a young adult novel, or if it's...
I'm not sure. I mean, usually you would say that yes, because you usually say that I learned from someone who sells book that usually you say that the age of the narrator is like the age group that the book relates to.
Right. Okay. So technically
like in young adult, but like it blurs after adult age, but like for teenagers you go around and say like about the age that the person like the main character is, that age would be the appropriate age for people to read it. So but for me it's absolutely not a young adult story. Or I mean, it is a young adult story and it has the classical themes of like the transformation or like the change in her and getting older, like the coming of age thing. But I think it's actually a novel that everybody should read.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you characterize it as young adult, then
sometimes pigeonholes it.
Other people would say, well, it's young adult.
Although there are some books, excuse me, that are able to transcend that pretty effectively.
And this is absolutely one of them.
And then having it be set during the height of the AIDS crisis was a really interesting choice. And then especially to have the author choose to set it the exact year that the FDA introduced the first antiretroviral drug, and that Reagan first acknowledged AIDS epidemic for the first time. like to have like a micro example of this family grappling with their loss exactly in the moment when the shift started to happen toward acknowledgement and toward treatment of the disease was a really interesting choice too, to feel how close the character was to almost not losing her uncle.
Yes.
But then I also really liked when she would talk about does this mean that so she talks about how Finn, her uncle, settled down because he had AIDS, and then that makes her think...
Oh, she suspects.
She wonders.
Yeah.
And then that makes her think, did I only get to have this close of a relationship because he got AIDS?
Yes.
And likewise, did Finn and Toby only get to have this type of relationship because of this disease? So grappling with to what extent the dark and the light of something that happens.
I thought that was so very interesting that she was like, if I could like change the past and make him not have AIDS, would I then have had the relationship with him?
Right.
And would then he have the relationship
with Toby? And could I be that selfless to make that choice, to go back in time?
And I thought that was such a very, very interesting question. And I think she just managed to... And I mean, the writing is just so beautiful. Like, the first time I heard it as an audiobook, and now that I reread it, like, there are so many small sentences. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And you just pin it down so perfectly, which I thought was very, very... I also thought that setting it exactly in that time, because I think a lot of people nowadays can't remember what it felt like in the 80s, like when you even didn't know how you could infect it with AIDS, and you were like afraid to drink out of a cup that someone who was infected maybe had drunk before, or you didn't know, like in the novel, like she's afraid, like after a kiss on the cheek, if she now could be infected, and like that feeling in the 80s, I thought that was very, very well described and catched in this novel. And
then among the parents and the people in their community and how they react to finding out that he had AIDS. And
we're going to come back to that later.
Okay.
Was there anything that annoyed you?
I wouldn't say annoyed, but I wanted the sister character to go a little deeper. Like, I kept expecting there to be a bigger reveal.
Yeah.
Like when she clearly was going through her own shit and dealing with feeling excluded from her sister, the narrator, and getting heavy into alcohol and self-sabotaging herself in her school play. Like, I thought, like, originally when the play director takes her aside, and then, like, I thought there was some sort of, like, molestation, or it seemed like, not that I wish molestation was in the book, but, like, I felt like there was going to be a bigger reveal, and maybe it's okay that it's not, maybe it's okay that it really was just the core relationship with her sister that was bothering her, but I just wanted that to be a little bit more something.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, at the end there is, like, at the end you get, like, an explanation why she acts out the way she acts out.
Right.
But that's exactly my point too. Yeah.
Yeah, and also with the mom, like, I feel like the richest, most dynamic, fully realized characters were the two uncles and the narrator. Yeah. But I feel like the sister and the parents were kind of more like archetypes. Like, they felt a little bit more like...
I mean, the dad was supposed to be, I guess, because very in the beginning she said, like, my father wasn't a part of it or something like that.
Right.
So yeah. True.
And when she talks about being orphans because both of her parents work in tax season, and so, I mean, which was a clever way for the author to get them out of the picture enough for her to get away with sneaking away so much. But really, it was shocking how little the parents perceived. Yeah. Like, it was crazy how much they were missing. And then the mother storyline of the sort of, like, regret of her failed potential or whatever. Like, I get it, but it just felt a little bit like those parts were a little bit more one note compared with the dimensionality of the other characters.
I mean, it didn't bug me that much because it still had so much.
Of course,
But I know what you mean. Exactly. Yeah, I know what you mean. And as this is a very, very emotional book, did you cry?
Only at the very end. Okay. What was the very end? Hold on. It was literally in the last pages. There was something about, I think it was when Toby was dying. Are we allowed to say spoilers?
Spoilers!
Retroactive
think the whole development,
AIDS in the 80s, it's not going to turn out that well.
Exactly. It's not that very surprising. Yeah, it's not that big as a spoiler. I think we managed to get away from spoilers very good so far. So.
Oh, okay. Until now.
No, but I think it isn't that big of a spoiler. I think
okay, the one part I did
because we're not going to tell how he dies.
Oh, right. It wasn't necessarily AIDS.
No, but I mean, what
like the manner, the scene.
Exactly.
But also the moment that made me cry, which I guess kind of contradicts what I just said about the mother, but I'm just going to immediately prove myself wrong. But the moment where the narrator catches her, like, like adding her own detail to the family portrait. So there's this whole storyline where the uncle had left this portrait of the two sisters, and the sisters keep adding their own details to the portrait after he's died. And in the very end, the mother adds her own detail, which is sort of her acceptance of, I don't know, it's a lot of things. There's a lot in there. But that moment was really beautiful.
Moment was really beautiful. Yeah, me too. Are you a book crier?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I cry all the time.
Right.
Watching TV, reading. It doesn't matter, but
I think more so I think I probably cry more in books than TV. Okay. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's hard to tell because it's a slower burn with the book.
That's true.
Like it takes longer to get there, but yeah.
So let's get back to the AIDS question, because I thought, or like the parents' problem with Finn being gay. Mm-hmm. And like at Finn's funeral, it's described that they put it like in their hometown so that all of Finn's friends wouldn't be there, and they also didn't want his partner to be there. Right. And like he appeared at the funeral, but they sent him away, like totally hiding away the queers.
Yes, I felt that too. It felt like Toby having AIDS and them conveniently making it about, oh, we hate him because he gave Finn AIDS, was a cover for deeper homophobia. Like it definitely didn't feel like, I mean, there was that detail about how when the mom and Finn were younger and were closer, she would like cover for him about his boyfriend. So there was some time when she was a little bit more accepting and involved, but it's clear that she sort of leaned in a different direction.
And like I always try to get a few personal questions about you in there that are connected to the book. Do you feel like Hollywood is still hiding away the queers the same, or do you think it's getting better?
I definitely think it's getting better, especially recently. I mean, most notably with like Lena Waithe recently, who is a Black lesbian creative who she was one of the writers and actors in Master of None, and she wrote this episode called Thanksgiving where it shows her character coming out to her family and bringing girlfriends home over several Thanksgivings, and she won an Emmy for that. And then she has her own show, The Chi, now about Chicago, and she was just on the cover of Vanity Fair. And to have like a queer woman of color suddenly be a new rising star in Hollywood is a huge deal. And I think that there is slowly more value being placed on these perspectives and this storytelling, and I think it's rapidly changing in the last couple of years. So hopefully we're on a trajectory where that will continue. But I do think that the hiding of the queers definitely has taken many different forms in Hollywood, and I think one of them is when there are gay characters but no gay writers. Mm-hmm. And so the gay characters just come across as like straight people who are with someone of the same sex. Like there's no nuance and realism of anything about the lived experience, like any sort of intricacies of what that would mean, which I think also happens when there are no, Black writers writing Black characters or any, and so yeah, that's a version of it when it's just like straight people playing gay characters written by straight people. And yeah.
Do you think that there are still so many closeted people in Hollywood, or do you think that coming out, or like even in like the whole popular scene, being it pop stars or anything, or do you think it's getting better, it's getting easier to out yourself?
I think it's getting easier, especially for artists who are breaking out right now. Like, I think people feel more emboldened to lead with that, like if they're queer, and even experience an increase in popularity for that reason. But I think it's probably still harder for people who are more established and have kept that part of their life private or purposefully murky. And
like present example, Kevin Spacey, and then right away the show is cancelled, and he's like, also, I mean, you don't know what's true about the whole also molesting people on set thing. You never know what's true in that.
Well, it's unfortunate that's what he used to come out. It's unfortunate that was like oh yeah, it's just that I'm gay. Like, no, like being abusing someone shouldn't be your moment to come out of the closet.
Exactly.
Yeah, or explaining why you abuse
someone.
But yeah, I think it is starting to change, and like there's starting to be out queer and lesbian pop stars like Hayley Kiyoko, is it? She's I'll send you her stuff. She's great, and she all of her pop songs and music videos center a female love interest, and she had people being like, why, oh, you're gonna put like another woman in your video? And she's like, yeah, you don't tell straight artists like, oh, you're putting another dude in your video as your love interest. Yeah, because that's what I like. Yeah,
and that's what my life is like.
I'm singing about myself.
Exactly.
So I guess I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. There's still plenty of frustrating things about the industry and reasons that people would stay closeted, but I do sense a change. And maybe it's also just that I've like for me in my own work, which I guess this will be more in the interview part, but my starting with
let's just say we're going to link the interview in the corner, so we explain why we are talking about acting
together. This was all filmed.
Everything.
Spoiler alert: this was all filmed in the same day. It wasn't.
You would not recognize it by us wearing the same thing.
What are the odds? But I think I have a little bit of a different or maybe privileged perspective, given that my writing and acting started with telling a story based on my own life, with my first web series #, which was set in Chicago and dealt with my character experiencing a version of what I had really experienced, which had to do with a queer relationship. And so my introduction into this world was it was me being more out than I actually was in my real life. So I actually found that, like, there were family friends or people in my life who I hadn't been in contact with for a while who were like, oh, Laura's doing this like very gay show. So does that mean, so I guess I've been almost more comfortable with that aspect of myself through portraying it on screen.
Yeah.
So
that's really interesting. Then it's also described that, like, back to the book, back to the book, that June, she's a dreamer, and she likes to imagine that she lives in the past, and so she wants to become a falconer.
Right.
Do you remember what you wanted to be as a kid?
Yes, I had many things I wanted to be, but I really wanted to be a farmer when I was little. I wanted to be an actress and a writer and a farmer. So 2 out of 3.
I mean, that's perfect. And I mean, you can still become a farmer.
Thank you so much.
I mean, a lot of actors, like when they settle down, they buy huge farms and they.
Yeah. So but I had this idea of I wanted tons of kids to help me farm.
Yeah.
Like, because I've always loved animals, and so I wanted to be surrounded by animals. But then even in my younger brain had the realism of like, I'm gonna need help on this farm. So, but I had the idea of having like tons of kids, but. Yeah. I imagined adopting older ones to help me, like being like, I need a few 13-year-olds.
Yeah, perfect.
To like, I see no flaws in this plan.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean,
so
we have your future figured out.
Yeah, so I feel like I've been talking about this a lot this weekend, but I just bought a truck. I'm very proud of it and excited. So that's another step toward my farm life.
I mean,
yeah, it's a pickup truck. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I am living my dream, my 12-year-old self dreams. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, I think it's fantastic if people actually become what they dream of becoming as a kid. That's fantastic.
What about you? What was your thing?
I can't remember. I guess it must have been like the typical thing of doctor, whatever. But I actually can't remember. I was asking myself the question when I wrote down the question. Right. But that's why I said, can you remember? Because I actually...
You were a blank slate. You were like, go on, world.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would have to ask my parents if they remember.
What you said?
What I said.
Yeah, because I feel like adults are always asking kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe they remember.
Have insight.
And then there was this one thing that I really loved in the novel, that she also, like Carol Rifka Brunt, also characterizes her characters through the music they listen to.
Oh, right.
And then there's like this poignant phrase where they sit in the car with their parents and then June says, yeah, well, my parents only listen to greatest hits tapes, which is like such a very, very bitchy thing to say. Like, so, so the question is, do you judge people by the music they listen to? Maybe like even in a nice way, maybe not even in a bad way.
Judge them in a nice way.
Like that if you feel like somebody also loves your favorite band, that you automatically think they're good people.
I think they're good people. I mean, I might think they have good taste, but I like such a wide range of music myself that unless there's something like blatantly offensive that someone's listening to, like offensively bad or offensive in content, I don't think I'd necessarily jump to judge them, but...
I mean, judge is a very hard word here, but...
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly judged people's musical taste before. Yeah. But the thing about noticing the parents' musical taste is really interesting, because I do think that's such a specific phenomenon of being a young person, and you can't control what you're hearing in your parents' household. Yeah. And my parents love music, and they were always playing music, and they would become obsessed with a couple of albums at a time and just play them over and over. And I remember... my mom would play Seal, like the one that had Kiss from a Rose on it. Oh, like when that came out, it was playing so much that I had such an aversion to it. I mean, I liked it at first, but then I had a lot of work done on my teeth when I was a little kid and was scared of the dentist, and they would like give you headphones to listen to music to make it less horrifying. Yes. And it was that Seal album, and I was just like, why? But now I've come to love that Kiss from a Rose song again. It's a good song. But I understand that phenomenon.
And on closing this up, staying with the music, there's a scene where June sits with her mother and she's supposed to choose some songs from a jukebox. And I mean, it's always funny
the Ghostbuster song.
Not even the Ghostbuster song, but it's funny for Germans, like to see that 99 Luftballons. Was it in America?
That's huge. Did you not know that until this book?
This is
Do you knew that?
Yeah, I knew that before this book, but like the book remembered me of it. That 99 Luftballons by Nena. Like if you're not from Germany, like Nena 99 Luftballons was a huge hit in Germany, and for some reason it also was a huge hit in the US.
And it was a hit in the German and in the English.
Exactly, and that's what I thought was so funny, because she chooses the German.
Well, version. And that's so true, because that was my experience too. That was the cooler one. And as an American, if you could sing along to like if you knew the German lyrics, that was the coolest.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you know the German lyrics?
No, I was not cool enough.
I was not.
But I had friends who did.
Oh,
and I liked listening to the German. I liked both of them, but and it was the same with the other one that like had the crossover was the lesbian duo, the all the things he said, running through your head. The like, who is that? You guys know? Is that German? No,
they are not German. They are Russian.
Damn it!
They won the Eurovision.
My bad.
They won the Eurovision Song Contest with that song, didn't they? Or they won the Eurovision Song Contest, but not with that song.
You're right. They were Russian.
Or they were at the Eurovision Song. At least they were at the Eurovision Song Contest at one point, but I don't know. I don't think they weren't with that song. But that song was such a dishonest.
Oh my god! Yeah, we could have a whole thing on that song.
On that song, yeah.
I'm sorry for my mistake.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. I like heard the rumor that actually Russian psychologists wrote the lyrics to that song.
To what end? Like, what was their goal?
To the end of to make it a hit because of the balance of like being a little bit.
Curious,
scandalous because kissing a girl,
right?
But on the other hand, like the very, very heterosexual fantasy of two schoolgirls and like the way they're made up in the video.
Yes, it was very male gaze.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Gross. I mean, I was into it at the time, but now
yeah,
I understand.
Weren't we all?
Yeah, disgusting. Yeah. Oh, but girls in skirts kissing.
On that note, I think we wrapped that up perfectly.
Yeah, that was the perfect ending to this book.
99 love balloons. Thank you so much for this. And I think let's say bye to... Oh, retell. If this didn't come across, we
liked it.
Fine.
Any of the copies.
I think like on Goodreads, you can give like stars from 1 to 5. Judging how you love the book, and I very seldomly give out 5 stars, but this is a total 5-star read. Just to make that clear. Okay, bye. Moin, I'm Catherine, and I'm still in bed with Laura Zak, which is super exciting.
For me as well. Moin.
The most important thing for this interview is that we are at El Beach Festival. That leads us to the first typical in bed with interview question.
Okay.
What happened last night?